Hello everybody and welcome to When a Local Authority Might Look into Ceasing an EHCP. So questions that we might ask ourselves are when this might happen, why it might happen, and what actually needs to be in place for this to happen. So when can an LA cease an EHCP? In order to cease an EHCP, the local authority must be able to evidence that a child or young person has met all outcomes and no longer has special educational needs and special educational provision in accordance with an EHCP. So basically, what we are trying to prove is that outcomes have been met, but they've been met to a point where that actually and I'm not saying the person hasn't got needs anymore, but the needs aren't impacting education to the point where they actually need provision to support them. Therefore, there's not any need anymore for the EHCP. Are there any other situations that an LA can cease an EHCP? Yes. So when a young person decides that they're no longer going to continue in education, then the LA can cease to maintain an EHCP. This is only when a young person's above age compulsory school age. So if they're still compulsory school age, they wouldn't be able to do this. But if a young person has hit that point where they've had, education's done for them, they're not going to continue in education, they might not have met their outcomes, they might still need support and need provision if they was to be in education, but because they've decided that education is time, their time in education is over, then they can cease the plan. What does an LA need to cease a plan? So in order to cease an EHCP, all outcomes must be all meeting all outcomes and no longer having SEN or needing SEN. So like I said again, I'm not saying that person doesn't have SEN. What I'm saying is at this point, the SEN doesn't impact their education and they no longer need provision in accordance with an EHCP to be able to access education. The LA can't just say that they've met this criteria, however, they must have evidence of that progress and they must be able to prove that a child has made and reached this stage. So there must be ample of evidence, there must be professional reports, there must be people stating that their plan is no longer needed, that the child has met X goal and they no longer need SEN or special educational provision. So can a young person take a year out to decide next steps? And I thought I'd talk about this because I feel this is quite important, because not every single young person, when they get to a certain age, knows what they want to do next. However, that doesn't necessarily mean they're done with education. So after a compulsory school age, a young person may not fully know if they will continue on with education or what they may do. The LA can pause an EHCP until that young person is clear on the next steps. The LA must not cease a plan if there's a chance a young person may stay in education. So just because a young person takes a year out, that doesn't give the local authority evidence and reason to cease a plan. If that young person is saying or indicating that at some point they are going to return back to education and it may be necessary for them to still have an EHCP plan, so it's a level 3 education or below, then the local authority would need that EHCP plan to be there. So although while they're having that break or they're working towards realising what it is they actually want or need going forward, the EHCP plan is not actually doing nothing, that doesn't mean they can cease it. And I did this with my eldest. He had an EHCP plan for 2 years dormant while he decided what next steps was best for him. And then at that point, we got to that stage where it was decided that he felt that education wasn't for him, he wasn't going to carry on, then we agreed to cease the plan.